Hello again, everybody, and welcome once again to another Saturday evening of Embracing Boundlessness. And so tonight, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be following up on the last two Saturday night sessions that we've had, where we have been talking about what is typically called the families of consciousness. And tonight, what we're going to do is, after just a little bit of a review of some of that stuff, so you kind of have a foundation, we're going to talk about what are called the Dreamwalkers, and their significance, I guess, in the association with the transition that we've been going through for a while now, our shift in consciousness. And so, as I did with both of these, I'll kind of be going back and forth. Sometimes you'll have me, sometimes you'll have to say two, or I know there's a couple other guests, I guess, hanging out that I am aware of their presence because of the subject matter tonight, and we'll see what happens there also. If something like that shows up, I don't think I'll stop and say anything, but you should probably feel the difference there. So we'll start a little bit like what we started the second time. And so, of course, as an expression of the rest of who and what you are, in other words, you as essence, or you as the oversoul, or whatever phrase you would like to use, that describes that aspect of you that understands that it is unlimited and infinite. As that more encompassing you, as that more encompassing you brought your attention, and we'll talk in terms of time, at one time, to this particular dimension. As in all dimensions, you became familiar with, well, we should probably clarify that, as in all physical dimensions. You became familiar with what various individuals call the template level reality, the dream time experience, the blueprint level reality of this particular dimension. And in that, you became totally familiar with all of what had been going on with this dimension, again, in those terms. And chose, of course, because you are interacting with it, to explore this particular dimension. And when you did, you became familiar that this particular dimension was originated, perhaps we will say again in those terms, through the collaboration of 9 groupings of essences, 9 pools of essences. They've been referred to as families of consciousness. And we have reviewed those 9 families of consciousness in the last couple of sessions, over the last couple of Saturday nights. So tonight, what we want to do is we want to take another step beyond what we've shared so far. So, as we've mentioned, as essence, again in terms of time, prior to creating whatever number of incarnations you're going to create into this particular dimension, you choose, because one of these 9 feels a little bit more like your own flavor than the others, even if it's just mildly, you align yourself with one of these families of consciousness. And this particular flavor, then, of one of these families of consciousness will be the foundational flavor of all of your incarnations. Then, as you express each of your incarnations into this dimension, at that moment, perhaps we'll say, Each of those incarnations also chooses at least one, frequently more than one of those families of consciousness to also what we call align with, and others also call align with. So you have what is referred to as belonging. You belong to a particular family of consciousness, which is the family that the whole of your essence chose to align with as it chose to explore this particular physical dimension. And then the family or the families of consciousness that you choose to align with as the focus personality comes into the dimension in those terms. Now, each of those 9 families of consciousness have essences within them that chose never to physically manifest within this dimension. It was these individuals, and it has been these individuals, because of course they still are in that regard in existence, doing what they've always done, that experimented with all the various ways that your planet could be expressed, that the land masses and the oceans on your planet could be expressed, that the vegetation could be expressed on your planet, that the various life forms could be expressed on the planet, as well as those particular forms, shall we say, that then you as essence would express your incarnations through. And there were many, many, many versions of those in terms of, let's say, a flow of time. Perhaps we would say from a very, very, very ancient time through your present time. The forms that you utilize in this moment are different than many of the forms that you've utilized or that have been utilized within this dimension, as your dimension has, in those terms and in association with those dreamwalkers, those individuals who have chosen not to physically manifest within the dimension, associated with each of the 9 families of consciousness, as those dreamwalkers have experimented with various forms within the dimension, which by and large means your planet. Because this is where most of your activity, at least for all of you, has occurred. So these individuals, especially in this time period, and by this time period, what we're talking about is the shift in consciousness that all of you are undergoing, that you have, as we have said before, inserted into your lives as you moved into your new millennium and your new century, which meant that instead of just becoming familiar with the information, the changes of this shift would begin to show up with more and more frequency in your lives. And this is not just the lives of those of you who have chosen to explore, but it is the lives of all individuals on the planet, because this is a collective choice. And this is where, as we have mentioned before, you can be very helpful to various individuals out there. Because as you explore, you may not be overly bothered, perhaps, let's say, if, as you look out your window, you see a form of something that doesn't look like it belongs on this planet walking across your yard. Or as you wake in the morning, you hear a voice talking to you about perhaps some of the things you might want to do today. Or as you walk through nature, you have perhaps a tree or perhaps a bush whisper something to you as you pass by, or whatever else may happen to you. As explorers, you've opened yourself to some of the more unusual things that may come into your life. And you've had some of these experiences. But for individuals who are not explorers, these things can cause them to question what's going on with them mentally, how focused they are on their reality. And so as you choose to share information, that information at the physical level can give individuals the opportunity to become a little more familiar with how this movement is ongoing in the various facets of this movement. But even if you don't choose to do that physically, you reach into the collective consciousness with those non physical aspects of yourselves and you do the same thing. Now, what we would like to do is we would like to discuss that as your essence chooses one of these families of consciousness as its foundational, perhaps we'll say flavor for all of its incarnations as they express themselves into this dimension, what will occur then is that whichever of these 9 families of consciousness your essence has chosen, as you begin to open the doors to your exploration, you can receive information from a variety of sources. You can receive information, of course, from your own essence. You can receive information from other essences within consciousness. Some may be in this dimension, they can be without of this dimension, that you have what's called a counterpart action in association with. There's a variety of ways that you can gain information. However, one of the things that these dream walkers do in this time period is that for those that are associated with their family of consciousness, they reach in and share information with you in particular ways. This is where the last document that was posted will be helpful to you. And so what we will do is we will go through each family and talk about the types of interactions that are most typical with the dream walkers of this family. And you will see that there is some overlap with some of the families. Now, again, remember that you have within you all of the energy of all of these families. It's just that you align more with one than the others, and this is by your choice. But all of this information is within you. And so there may be times where you will do something different. You can also have an experience where your essence, you as essence, behind the scenes, of course, because you probably will not be familiar with it, can choose to merge for a while with one of these families, which will then flavor your experience here. And this happens not infrequently in your physical reality. But what we'll suggest now is that we will go through and we'll talk about the various ways that the dream walkers that are associated with each of these families most typically will share information with individuals, typically the individuals that are also belonging to this family, but in some cases it draws individuals that are belonging to other families. And we'll speak beginning with one family where that particular experience, in other words, they draw others as well, typically happens. And so this is the family of consciousness that's called Sumafi. The dreamwalker interaction with the Sumafi family with an individual, usually who belongs to Sumafi, but you can also be aligned Sumafi, which again means that you chose to align yourself with this family as you came in as the incarnation. But most typically as someone who belongs to the Sumafi family, which again means that your essence chose to align with this family. These dreamwalkers in this family choose to share information through channeling and through automatic writing. And they do this again because their emphasis as they express themselves is in the least amount of distortion to be as accurate as they possibly can with the information that they are sharing. And these two ways allow them to do this. Now, as you may be aware, with various channeled sources on your planet, starting with Seth, there's been Elias, there's been Abraham, there have been a few others. Some of these draw individuals from many other families of consciousness because their essences realize the ease of understanding the information as it is shared in this way. The next family that we will talk about, and again is on your list if you're looking at the list, is the Millier family of consciousness. Again, these individuals being those individuals that, especially historically, were found with people like your Aboriginal individuals, your Native American individuals, individuals who lived in villages and things like this in South America, wherever it might happen to be, because of course people like this are spread around your world. Now, of course, these individuals, of course, are found in all walks of life, but characteristically, these individuals are not really concerned with making it in the world in the way that many seem to be. They like to focus inwardly more than outwardly. And they're basically, not that other groups aren't as well, but what they like to do is they like to make sure that they remind everybody of the spiritual or metaphysical, perhaps we could say now, aspects of who and what they are. So the dream walkers associated with this family of consciousness can show up for individuals that belong to this family as angels or heavenly beings, other beings of light, other dimensional focuses. In other words, individuals that you may term extraterrestrials right now. These individuals may have a creature speak to them and may speak back to the creature. They may speak to a tree or a plant or any other part of nature and have that part of nature speak back to them. Something that they definitely understand. These individuals also will utilize dreaming to a large degree. They also do vision questing. Sometimes without substances to help the vision quest, sometimes with substances to help the vision quest. When they have these experiences, there is no doubt that there's a communication that's going on. They know that it is not, in those terms, fanciful. Moving on to the next group, the Gramada group. Again, if your essence belongs to this group, the interaction that these dreamwalkers will have is frequently through dream states. They will show up in dream time. And dreams for these individuals are not like dreams like many other individuals have dreams. They are just like your waking reality. And when these dream walkers show up in the dream state, they have an actual interaction with these individuals. They may also show up for these individuals in a form of inspiration, where the inspiration, the direction shows up strongly within, perhaps we'll say, their mind, and they understand the information that they got as something that comes from outside of them, and they know the information is valid. The next family of consciousness is Vold. Again, these are the individuals who like to bring change in your society. Those individuals who are usually the beginners of war, that are at the heads of your revolutions, change of any type within societies. They are very emotional individuals. They are likers of drama. And these individuals have a very interesting way of gaining their information. They audibly hear voices from outside of themselves. It could come from no place in particular. It may come from the building they're walking by, or the lamppost, or the automobile, or the dog that's walking past them, in many, many, many different ways. And again, it's not hearing a voice in your head. It's hearing a voice like you hear a voice if your friend speaks to you. It is this. And frequently, the information that's conveyed to them is to help them to actually move whatever it is that they would like to move within your societies. Ideas that they can express in those directions. The Ilda individuals, the Ilda family of consciousness, if your essence belongs to this family of consciousness, Then these individuals, the dreamwalkers that are associated with this family of consciousness, frequently show up for those individuals as things like leprechauns, dragons, extraterrestrials, interdimensional focuses, fairies, any types of creatures that you consider to be imaginary type things, or maybe even are part of some of your mythologies. They do this because they know that if they express themselves in this way, you will pay attention. And not only that, because Ilda are great communicators, they share information between peoples, between societies. They know that these types of experiences will be shared with others and then cause those other individuals to open doors, to begin to question. Our next family of consciousness is the Sumari family of consciousness. Again, these would be those individuals that were your flower children, right? They are individuals who they live a life. They typically are very artful. They live a life in a particular way that brings new ideas into your culture and mixes it into your culture. These individuals are and have information expressed by the dreamwalkers that are associated with this family of consciousness through many different types of psychic phenomenon and things that individuals associated with psychic phenomenon. Channeling sometimes, automatic writing as well, Ouija boards, seances, astrology, tarot cards, psychic readings, crystal balls, could be ruins, anything like that. They're very, very drawn to these types of things. Now, as they move deeper into their awareness of self, they frequently will move beyond utilizing whatever the, and we'll use a term that another uses, permission slip, and the information will begin to come directly to them instead. Now, they may still choose to use this permission slip as they interact with others, because sometimes it's easier for others to believe that it's coming in association with something else when they no longer need the permission slip any longer. Again, it depends on how they would like to do their exploration. Our next group is Tumold. And now again, more than any other group, this particular group expresses itself very differently if you are belonging to the group or if you are aligned with the group. If you are belonging to the group, you can also have interactions with natural elements of your planet, like the Milumay group do. You may be interacting with vegetation, with the elements, earth, wind, fire, water, with other things. And these individuals are quite adept at just having information show up for them. It's like they get a download of information that comes from the deeper parts of themselves. They understand the validity of the information, but it doesn't come through something like, let's say, an association with a tarot deck or something like that. It just shows up for them. Many shamans, witch doctors, and individuals that they used to call witches used to express themselves in this family, and they would have these traits. Individuals that are aligned with Tumold, and individuals in particular that are explorers of consciousness, will lean more towards things like herbs, flower essences, homeopathy, dowsing, a variety of things like this. Their focus is to utilize a methodology that would help to heal the individual. Individuals that are belonging to the Tumold family understand that there is nothing to heal. Their approach to individuals is to guide the individual, to share information, to bring the individual to an understanding of who and what they actually are, knowing that when this occurs, they will then move beyond whatever challenges that they have. The family of consciousness that's called Zuli. When dreamwalkers express information to other individuals who are also belonging to this family of Zuli, these individuals may go to the ballet and watch individuals who are strongly associated with the Zuli family do the dance, and they will gain information like you will gain from listening to a channeled source by watching that. Or perhaps they'll watch figure skaters, same thing, or they may go to a bodybuilding contest. There's a deep appreciation of the form, and as they allow themselves to appreciate what it is that's being expressed artfully through the body, information flows to them. Now, because this particular family of consciousness had to do as the dreamwalkers, as this family of consciousness, the dreamwalkers, were participating in the formation of your planet, as they were associated with presenting all the forms on your planet, regardless of what it was, whether it was plants, whether it was animals, regardless of what it was. These individuals can also have information shared with them through things like rocks or vegetation or trees. A number of these families, the Zuli family, the Tumold family, and the Milyabe family, you may find individuals who have a great love of plants and don't understand it, or have a great love of having various types of rocks around them. And again, they don't understand it. They just know that they're very, very interested in having those things in their home, and their home may be filled with these things. They can have an belonging to one of these families. An alignment can also do this, but typically it's not quite as strong, although it can be. And then for our last family of consciousness, Borledim. When the dreamwalkers that are associated with this particular family share information, they share it through children or those invisible friends that children have. And so if you had, let's say, a husband and a wife, we'll just say it that way to start with, and they have a child. The child is perhaps 4. And the mother and the father have several friends come over. And the child is playing. They have perhaps a playroom. And the individuals that the parents have invited over walk to the playroom to interact with the child. And the child says, "Here is my friend. My friend wants to have tea and cookies with each of you." Now, if amongst these individuals is an individual belonging to the Borledim family, they may actually view this individual's invisible friend. They may hear this individual's friend, or as the child speaks, they will hear words that nobody else there is hearing that conveys information to them about deeper concepts of consciousness. Now, in this, one of the reasons why we chose to express some information about the families of consciousness, and in association with these dreamwalkers, and why there's some significance to this information beyond what we've mentioned before, is that, again, you've heard us describe that as you move towards the final years of your shifting consciousness, and for some individuals before that, you will move to an understanding of consciousness as the dreamwalkers have. And in terms of historically, we could say had, but actually have is more accurate because, of course, all the things that they are expressing are simultaneous, even though some of these may seem to have been expressed in very, very ancient time periods. And this is significant because this is the direction that all of you head. When you finish your shift, you also will have a great awareness of all that you are as essence. The difference is going to be They were not physically focused, but you are. So what you will do is you will move closer and closer and closer to the experience that these dream walkers have in their existence as you move more deeply into your shift. Now, also, as you move more deeply into your shift, the traits and characteristics of how information is shared will become easier and easier for you to connect with. You will understand it more deeply. You will be able to convey it to others more powerfully. But of course, this is a choice. Now, again, understand us here. When we suggest to you and remind you that there are individuals on your planet who are not choosing to move through your shift in the way that some of the rest of you are. This is only a choice in the way that they chose to explore this particular physical reality. This is how they chose to explore it. Your way is not better, or their way is not worse. It is only different. In this is your exploration. Now, in association with what we just mentioned, as you choose to express yourself through incarnations into the dimension, you can either choose to associate with one of these dream walkers. You could call it you now have an aspect of a dream walker that's part of your essence, or you can choose not to do that. If you have chosen to do that, you will find that moving through spiritual, metaphysical information is to some degree a little easier for you, a little more natural for you than for some others. And again, that's only a choice of experience, but it is your choice of experience. It's not that you have more than information within you, because every individual and every individual's essence has all information within them. It's that within this time period, you can make your movements a little easier than others who do not have an association with the dreamwalkers in the way that you chose to as you entered in this particular dimension. So again, we realize that this information is new probably to all of you. And so we will, at this point, choose to end what we'll share in that regard. If, of course, there's clarification that you would like us to expand on any of the things that we've said, or tie it back to the other information that we presented in the last 2 weeks, we would be happy to do that for you. So if you have anything, please go ahead.
I just think that it's very interesting, and it makes me want to, well, made me think of how lucid dreaming fits into that as well. Because we're going to take those expressions whenever we bring those experiences back and filter them through our beliefs, which are loosely structured around our families of consciousness we have chosen.
Beliefs, of course, will affect everything that you do. We've mentioned, and others have, that, and we've phrased it this way: the primary work that you are doing in your shift is the neutralization of the beliefs that you utilize in this dimension. In your lives now, you will take actions in your life because, in an automatic way, you see things as right, wrong, good, bad, better, worse. Or you believe that a cake should be baked in a particular way, or a book should be read in a particular way, or whatever it might happen to be. There's many, many, many things. Now, if you choose to do that in a particular way, because it is your preference and not automatically, then for that particular circumstance, you've been able to neutralize that particular belief. In other words, now it's a choice for you. It's not something that you do just automatically with no thought behind it. These types of things are very powerful for individuals. We've spoken before about the power of acceptance, acceptance of yourself and the choices that you would like to make in the world, as well as acceptance of others and the choices that they are making in their lives. Now, acceptance is not the same as agreement at all. You can totally disagree with the way that somebody else is making their choice, but still understand that they have a valid ability to be able to choose in the way that they're choosing, because this is what consciousness does. It expresses themselves. This dimension is a dimension that all of you are exploring and experiencing. You do that perpetually through the entirety of your endless existence as you explore and you experience all of what you are. In this dimension, you do the same thing. As a physical dimension, as a very complex physical dimension, was one of the most complex physical dimensions. And the only dimension, we will remind you again, that utilizes emotion as powerfully as you use it here. You explore this in all the depths that you possibly can, in all the ways that you can possibly explore it. Now, if you have a strong leaning in one particular way and somebody else is exploring in a different way, you may see that as something totally wrong from the way that you like to explore. But again, we're going to suggest the approach of different. And please, again, be aware that as you move through this shift, there are going to be many situations and circumstances that will arise in your towns, in your countries, on your globe, that have a meaning to how all of you are moving right now that you may not understand at all as it occurs. If you're meant to contemplate that particular situation or circumstance strongly in your life, it will be right in your life. In other words, if it's a war on the other side of the world, do not necessarily involve yourself with that unless, of course, you feel a strong draw to do that. Because again, individuals around your planet, just like you will have different challenges than, let's say, a close friend of yours. Individuals around the planet in various countries, in various states, etc., will have their own challenges because of the various energies that they're working through. And until you have a deep understanding of the movements of consciousness, many of these things are very difficult to identify and to understand. But every time that you express energy into the collective, which you're doing consistently and perpetually, if you choose instead acceptance and even appreciation of the way that individuals express themselves, it is that energy that then goes out into the collective and helps to influence the collective in that direction. Energy is a very, very, very potent thing. An energy of judgmentalism not only means that you have to see that in your life someplace as a reflection, but again, it moves out into the collective. So this again, movement that you have, this shift in your consciousness, is the only time this has occurred in your dimension. Because it is the only time, and again, because you utilize the idea of a linear flow of time, you tend to be more heavily influenced by what you would call your past incarnations than your future incarnations that, shall we say, are already shifted. Unless, with intent, that's where you choose to draw your energy from, is there, which you can do. This does not mean, however, that you still won't have to choose, perhaps in many moments during the day, to do just that. But you will find, like anything else that you practice, that as you do that, it will be easier to do as you're challenged with various situations and circumstances. Then your environment will begin to reflect that more and more. And also, that again will be the energy that you push out into the collective consciousness. And as more and more and more of you do that, it's easier for the others to access as well. Not that energy isn't always accessible by individuals, but there again, because of the beliefs that you have, if you are associated with this collective, that energy is, in that regard, seemingly more accessible by the others on your planet. Are there other questions?
I have one.
Go ahead, Heidi.
So let me just preface by saying I have not been able to be here for the last couple of sessions and hear all of the explanation of this, but I have been able to read the documents that were set, so I kind of have an idea that we're talking about different groups, families um, that have different gifts that they're utilizing or attracted to. And so it's kind of a structure, of 9 different, where things are kind of sorted into 9 different. And I'm just wondering, in my incomplete understanding of all of this, I feel like I related to something in each one of the families. So it didn't feel like it was putting myself in, identifying myself in this one and this one. And then a little bit of it was just kind of, all of them, in some
Indeed.
way. Is that part of this system, this 9
Again,
family system?
all of these individuals, all of these energies are accessible by every one of you individuals that are here. So let's utilize let's utilize 2 of these families. Let's say that an individual belongs, in other words, the essence chose to associate more closely with this family than the others as it came to this dimension and decided to enter into this dimension, to the Sumari family of consciousness, those individuals who are quite artistic in the way that they express themselves. And then, as they moved into an incarnation, we'll talk about just one incarnation in a moment, that particular incarnation chose to align with Tumold. Individuals who choose to align with Tumold love to help people, to heal people. So individuals who are doctors, nurses, dentists, therapists, anybody who likes to help to bring some sort of a healing effect to individuals are aligned with the Tumold family. Now, this particular individual, however, may use art to do it. So this is where the deep Sumari flavorings come in to how it is that they heal. So this is the melding of those 2 energies. And again, this is not something that is thrust upon the essence because there are numberless dimensions for you to explore. As you come upon a dimension, you choose to explore the dimension. You become totally familiar with how the dimension is set up, and you either choose to enter into the dimension with those guidelines or you choose to move on and do something different. So again, and there's many mixings and matches that go on. Most of the time, when an individual enters in as a focus personality, as the incarnation, typically they will choose more than one of these families. And there is a mixture that goes on then. Sometimes they do not. And again, through your life, what can happen at the essence level, the deep soul level, if you want to put it that way, whatever you'd like to say, is you can have mergences. It can merge with another family of consciousness, and then that flavor begins to flow in your life for a while until that particular phenomenon is no longer going on. So there's many, many things. What we expressed in the last three is just to give individuals some ideas of some of the ways that certain flavors in their life tend to be more interesting to them than others, and certain ways that information tends to flow into their life as they explore consciousness in whatever way that they explore consciousness, as well as if they would like to reach out and interact. And these particular 9 families have been expressed around your world in a variety of ways. Anytime that there is like a council of 9 or something like this, many times what's gone on is there's an awareness of these essences that are part of the original formation of your dimension. And there's interpretations, of course, about what they are. Something else that we would like to mention. When you have gone through large movements on your planet, especially, we'll say, of a spiritual nature, there have been individuals that have stepped forward that have shared powerful energy on your planet that have helped to carry that movement forward. With this movement, you will do this particular movement. Once you shift, you will utilize how you have shifted yourself for a very, very, very long time in your dimension, longer than you've done anything else on your planet. Because of that, in your late 1990s, 9 individuals, one from each of these planets, from each of these groups of consciousness, were born onto your planet. And they expressed very prominently the energy of each of these groups of consciousness. And even when they were very young, individuals around them began to notice that there was something very different about these individuals. These individuals are now in their early 20s. They have been on your planet for that much period of time in terms of time. They are not going to make themselves known, let's say, like your Martin Luther King did or something like that. They're going to work a little more quiet. They work in energy. They make their changes behind the scenes, shall we say, although they will not hide from the public either. But the idea is that they're not there to take leadership at the forefront of any movement. They're here to spread that particular type of energy. They will help immensely with this movement that all of you are going through. They are, in that regard, all males. That was purposeful because the energy will shift from what you call a male-dominated culture to a balance of masculine and feminine. These individuals already have that balance. They express it naturally. And in energy, they are an example, shall we say, throughout the energy of your collective consciousness, a very powerful example of that energy. But again, keep in mind, all things that you involve yourself with here in your existence is through your choice. We will, as we move forward, share information about some of the other ways that you have chosen to flavor, perhaps we'll say, your perception of your world. You know already that your beliefs heavily influence your perception. There are qualities, perhaps we'll call them, that you chose again prior to coming into the incarnation that you carried with you to flavor the way that you perceive, again, so that your exploration would be of a particular nature. And again, realize, if you haven't heard it other places, we will remind you that we've said this, that you have more than one incarnation on this planet at this time. You may have 4, 5, 6. And in fact, in this time period of this shift, quite a number of individuals on your planet are not what they seem to be. They are expressions of other individuals so that you can become increasingly familiar with the ways that you have been doing things and the movements that are going on your planet within your dimension as you move towards the finality of this shift. So you have many, many versions of yourself now that you're expressing on the planet. You are gathering experiences to yourself as you make this movement. In your history, your movements have been developed around you. Even your information technology is something that happens out there with your devices. This movement is about you. It's a much deeper movement. This will change your existence in a way that none of the things that you've done around you could ever hope to do. Are there other questions?
I just wanted to say that was very deep, and thank you for that, because this is information we're not getting from other sources. So thank you for being an excellent resource for this to say to and Chuck.
As you associate with certain friends, perhaps frequently, and enjoy doing things together, this is true for you as essence as well as it is for us as essence. Various other essences have shared information with you on your planet at certain times. And it was no accident the flow at which they appeared on your planet. There are a number who lean in the direction that we do. And we share information with the energy of a different family behind us. You may be familiar that the essence that you termed Seth was associated with a particular family of consciousness. You may be familiar that an essence called Elias was associated with a particular family of consciousness. Others the same way. The individual you know as Bashar is associated with a particular family of consciousness. And by what we said here tonight, you may be able to guess which. So these individuals now, as you've moved into your new millennium, will show up at an increasing rate. And they will have an alliance, perhaps we will say, or an alignment with a particular family of consciousness. Because all of you are associated, everybody on your planet, with these families of consciousness. And so as you hear information from individuals that leans in a particular dimension, a particular direction, excuse us, you will find yourself naturally attracted to that information. And depending on the mix that you have going on, you may find yourself attracted to several different types of information. And again, it makes no difference what it is that you find yourself attracted to. Allow yourself to follow whatever it is that you're attracted to. And understand at the same time that all the information that's going to be shared with you is information that you already contain. This movement of yours is a remembrance of who and what you are. You are already all of what you will eventually remember. You just have chosen for many, 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 many centuries and millennia to hide that memory from yourselves. This shift is a movement of removing those blinders from your eyes. You will know to a large degree what your abilities are while you choose to express yourself within this dimension. Meet individuals where they are. Listen to how they express themselves. Learn what it is that they believe about their life and about these types of things. And then gently nudge doors open for them if you can. Attempt to see yourself as a sharer of information and not necessarily, in the classic sense, a teacher of information. Because again, really, you teach them nothing. They have all of this within them already. All you're doing is reminding them that it's there in whatever way feels natural for you. Is there anything that anybody else would like to add or inquire about? Then for this evening, we would say once again, as it always is, it was very pleasant for us to have your association tonight. And again, regardless of the challenges that you may be going through in the moment, as we have expressed before, this is a new movement in your dimension. No one's gone through it before. You are doing well. You may look around your planet and not understand how that could be. It's only because, from your vantage point, you don't understand what's going on behind the scenes. You are doing well. Things will work out. Walk the road that feels natural for you to walk. Live the life that feels natural for you to live. And you will do your part in that regard. Even if your part doesn't necessarily feel like you're doing much. Because again, you don't know what you're doing while you're sleeping in your bed at night. You can be doing many, many, many things. And I will suggest to you, in fact, I will promise you that all of you, in fact, are doing those things as you sleep at night. You are all very interactive with individuals in this capacity. It's not just within physical focus that you explore these things and interact with individuals like this. So we will say good evening, and we would hope that your exploration continues to inspire you.